way, and your phone, you're off of it, and it's blank, and it's on the corner of your desk. Yes? Awesome sauce. Okay, so for bell work, I gave you some sentences with underlined words, and I asked you to decide what they were doing in the sentence. What was their function? Before we go into that, somebody tell me what the objective means. What are we learning today?
You can identify your participles.
What does it mean to you?
What? You gave us new ones? AA? Oh, wait, I got this.
Isai, what does that mean to you? What does that mean?
We're gonna learn.
I can identify verbals, gerunds, participles, and infinitives. How they function in a sentence. What does that mean?
How they function in a sentence.
Oh, what functions?
I don't know the gerund, participles, and things.
Oh, what are those?
Gerunds are words that end in ing. Participles are in past, something like that. And infinitive or.
That's right. Isai, that was pretty impressive because guess what? The sophomores were not able to answer that part. Even though a couple of them I know had this lesson last year with me. So good job. Okay, so first one on the bell work. I underlined leave. We intended to leave early. What's leave doing in that sentence? What function is it serving? You could even tell me what part of speech it is. Johnny, what'd you put?
I didn't do it.
Okay, so look at it now and tell me what you think.
Which one?
The first one.
Playing basketball is fun. Oh, we intend to leave early. I don't know.
Well, what do you think it's doing in the sentence?
Leaving. Someone's leaving.
Okay, so you think it's an action?
Yeah.
So it is describing an action in some way, right? But it's not actually the verb in the sentence. Okay? Zeke, playing basketball is fun. So what do you think playing is doing in that part, in that sentence? It's that way, kiddo.
Hey!
What do we think playing is doing in that sentence?
Fun.
Well, no, playing is underlined words. What's playing doing then? You can use this if you want. You don't have to, because we're going to go over this. If you're not familiar with them, don't worry about that. Just tell me what you think it's doing. What's its function?
Action.
So you think there, because playing basketball is an action. So it still seems to be describing an action, but it's actually not the verb in the sentence again. Okay? Walking to school. Kara.
What do you think?
Well, because I'm just going down to the one. Normally, yes. But in this sentence, again, it's not an actual verb because it's not telling me that anybody actually is walking to school, right? It insinuates it, but it doesn't come out and say it, right? Okay, how about sleeping dog? Isaiah. Well, dogs do sleep, right? And that's an action. But here, is it saying that the dog's sleeping actually?
No.
No. Sleeping's actually describing the dog, right? It's noting a state or condition the dog is in. And how about Susan has finished her homework? Odessa. Say again? Oh, I thought you said it was an accident. I was like, what? And there, that one is actually an action. There, that one's actually functioning as a verb. Okay? So, when you have a word, like most of those on the bell work, that looks like a verb, but doesn't actually function as a verb in a sentence. It's called a verbal. And there are 3 kinds of verbals: gerunds, participles, and infinitives. The first one we're going to do is the gerund. Gerunds are ing forms of verbs. So verbs that end in ings, but they act like a noun. In order for an ing verb to be a verb, it has to have a helping verb. Just like our example at the end, what was it? Has, finished, or something like that. I was going to try to go backwards. So there has been reading. So if I said the girl has been reading Romeo and Juliet, reading there is a verb because it's got the helping verbs. As a noun, it can be the subject of a sentence. It can be a direct object. It can be an indirect object. It can be the object of the preposition. It can also be in a positive. Do you guys remember positive phrases? For example, if I say, Kira, the girl sitting next to Zeke, is sleeping. The girl sitting next to Zeke is the appositive. Remember, it's giving me more information about the girl. Well, gerunds can be participles too. Appositives too. Also, gerunds can have their own objects. So if I say playing basketball, like we had, playing basketball is fun. Basketball is the object of the gerund. When you have an object with a preposition, with a gerund, or if the gerund has any descriptors like a prepositional phrase, we then call it a gerund phrase. Okay, so Wesley, what's the gerund in number 1 and what's it doing in the sentence? Meaning, is it subject, object, what? Okay. Good. It's the subject of the sentence. Because what is an excellent way? Hiking, right? Isabel, what's the gerund in number 2? Good. And do we think it's a subject, object? Well, it's not the subject. Because remember, the first noun or pronoun usually in the sentence is going to be the subject. The one right for the verb. So I is the subject there because I love. So it's an object. It's a direct object because it answers the question, what do I love? Stomping. Dylan, number 3.
Attending.
No, you're right. There's 2.
As a subject.
Subject.
Yeah.
Well, first, what are the 2?
Graduating.
Good. And then you think it's a subject? So is it the first noun in the sentence?
No.
My goal is actually the subject there. And these, because it's not an action verb, it's not actually a direct object, it's called a predicate nominative, but we're just going to call it an object right now, okay? Good job. Melanie, number 4?
Swimming.
Okay?
Swimming. And something this I gave.
So yeah, the subject's I, verbs gave. And so swimming, if it's not a subject, would be a what? It's an object. And in this case, it's just the indirect object. Isai, number 5.
Traveling is an object. The subject is I.
Good. So traveling is an object, but it's not actually the object of the verb. It's not the direct object. It's the object of the preposition. The about is a preposition. And thinking is not a gerund there. Thinking is a verb because it has a helping verb. I was thinking.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe fun.
Ms. Thompson,
Uh,
can I use the restroom, please?
Yep. okay, so give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you clear on gerunds and how they function? Everybody needs to participate. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you clear on gerunds and how gerunds? Oh, happy Monday. Gerunds, not
Thumbs
German.
up or thumbs down? Sideways.
So kind of sideways. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, shut your mouth.
Okay, so the next kind of verbal is the participle. Participles look like verbs but act like adjectives. So you're always going to be identifying a noun or pronoun that they're describing or modifying, okay? So participles can end in ing. They can also end in ed. They can be the past tense form of verbs or en. So examples in ing, limping, the hiker favored his aching ankle. Limping describes the hiker. Aching describes the ankle. See, with the past participle, confused, Nan returned to her interrupted work. Confused describes Nan, and interrupted describes the work. Okay? There are two weird cases with being and having where you end up having a double participle. In the participle phrase, you'll have the ing form and the ed form. So being informed, I knew what to expect. If being and informed together, they're two participles. And it also happens with having. So having decided, Adele acted quickly. When you use a participle phrase at the beginning of the sentence, it has to modify the subject of the sentence. If not, you put the end. You always want to put your participle phrases as close as possible to the noun or pronoun they are modifying. For example, and you guys probably saw this when you did the IXL last time on misplaced modifiers, because that was the case most of the time, is that it was a participle phrase that either didn't have something to refer to or it was in the wrong spot. So looking down the street, I saw the rabid dog. Of course, there it's clear I'm looking down the street. Looking down the street, the rabid dog came toward us. This sentence indicates that the rabid dog is looking down the street. Okay? So moving on. Melanie, oh wait, did Melanie go already? She went already. Kenya,
Shut up, Devon.
I want you to decide if it's a verb, participle, or gerund. So do we have any wrapping paper left?
Verb.
Well, first of all, what is it? Which one is it?
Wrapping.
Good. So is anybody actually wrapping anything in that sentence?
No.
So it's probably not a verb.
It's a go.
So now we gotta decide if it's a noun or an adjective, a gerund or a participle. See? A participle? That's okay. So it's an adjective, so now if it's an adjective, I have to decide what it's modifying. What is it describing or modifying? Okay, well, right beside the screen up here, I have put the questions we asked to determine if something's a noun, right beside the screen. To decide if something's a noun, adverb, or adjective. So if it answers the question what or who, it's a noun. If it answers the question why, when, how, where, to what extent, it's an adverb. And if it answers which one or what kind, it's an adjective. So you've decided it's a participle, it's an adjective. So it's telling me what kind of what, or which what, wrapping what. Okay, so what's the closest noun to wrapping? No, in the sentence, Melanie, in the sentence.
In that sense.
Uh-huh. Issei, can you help her out?
He's dumb.
No, he's not.
You're smarter than you.
There's no
So
place to go.
wrapping, Isai, what's it modifying? What's it describing?
Your paper.
Paper. But you never said it. I
Yeah,
had
I
a
was
feeling you
scared.
knew. I know. Which is weird because usually you're not. It's just the Monday thing. So you were right on. It's a participle and it's describing paper. Trust yourself. If not, if you get it wrong, who cares? That's why we're doing this. If you knew all this already, then we wouldn't need to do this, okay? So Adriana, the detective was wrapping up the case. Is it a verb, participle, or gerund? Listen. Good. Very, very good. So it's wrapping, right? And it is a verb. So in this case, because we have a helping verb, we know right away it's a verb.
Just tell me after.
I knew
And it's literally telling me that the detective was actively wrapping something, okay? Rain, number 3 there, wrapping the gifts took longer than expected. Okay, a gerund, good.
Oh, that's
Yeah, just gerund. That's great. It's a weird looking word, isn't it? So it's a gerund, you're right. It's a noun there. It's a who or a what. And what part does it play? Is it subject or object? Good. Because what took longer? Wrapping the news, right? Good job, guys. Okay, so how do we feel about participles? We feel good? Did you guys bobblehead me or something? Feel good? Okay. Strong? Okay, now to the really hard one, infinitives. Infinitives are easy to identify, very hard sometimes to determine what they're doing. So infinitives are where I have the format to plus a verb, okay? Remember back when we did prepositional phrases, I told you that to could either be a preposition or it can be part of an infinitive. And that's all it can do. So if you have to in a noun, it's a prepositional phrase, right? If you have to in a verb, it's an infinitive. That's the only 2 options, okay? Infinitives are very unique and interesting because they can either be nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. And they are the only thing in the English language that can actually do that. And it can never ever be a verb. Also be careful about split infinitives. I'm sure you guys have heard the term before. Split infinitives are where back up. Split infinitives are where you have a word in between your to and your verb, usually a modifier. And grammatically, it's not okay ever to do that. You always have to have your verb right next to your to, okay? So when an infinitive functions as a noun, it's going to answer the question what or who. And just like gerunds, it will have, it can be a subject, it can be a direct object, it can be an indirect object, it can be in a positive, it can be the object of a preposition. It can fulfill all the functions of a noun. When an infinitive is an adjective, of course it's going to answer the questions, which one, what kind. So like the children showed a willingness to cooperate. To cooperate is my infinitive, and it's telling me what kind of willingness. Okay? The time to start is now. To start is my infinitive, and it's telling me what kind of time. Okay?
Okay. Okay. So it's right.
And infinitives is adverbs. Answer why, when, where, how, and to what extent. For example, they fought to win. To win is the infinitive, and it's adverbial because it's telling me why. Okay? Some people are unable to adjust, and it's how are they unable, and it's to adjust, so it answers how, and it's an adverb. Okay? When I add things, just like with gerunds and participles, when I add modifiers, I create an infinitive phrase. So infinitive phrases can have where an infinitive has an object, where you add an adverb, where you add prepositional phrases. Pretty much the same thing like what we did with gerunds. So let's go through these. Kate, first one. Identify the infinitive phrase, and then also tell me if it's in a subject or object position. So, okay, refer back to the board in the center there. What's the format of an infinitive? It's the last one there.
Should have been.
Say again? Well, right there in the center, on the bottom, an infinitive, and then in parentheses, it's to plus a verb, right? So they're easy to spot because you're looking for the word to, and a verb. Yep. So the infinitive there is to describe. Now we have to do the hard part. We have to decide if it is a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. So first you can ask ourselves, an adverb modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, and it answers why, when, how, where, or to what extent. Okay? So let's look at this one. To describe required gestures. Describe the hockey game, blah, 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 but to describe required gestures. Is this answering a who or a what? Melanie.
He's talking.
Uh-huh. And then the table up front there, could you please be quiet? You need this information. It's going to be on your final and your worksheet you're going to do shortly. Because we need to practice it. Later. Kate, go ahead. Is it answering a what or a who?
What? And who? Care.
Kate, we're still on you.
Oh.
To describe, is it answering the question what or who in the sentence? To describe in that sentence, is it answering the question what or who?
What?
Oh, what? Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. I thought she was going, what? Yes, it answers what? So it is a noun. Noun. That's hilarious, Kate. Oh my god.
Sounds like you.
Okay. Elise, take the second one for me. What's the infinitive? And then what part of speech is it serving?
I believe in you.
I really, really, really wish you guys would let me give you free participation points every day. And you don't.
I wasn't talking.
Uh-huh.
I was just cheering out.
Go ahead, Anise. Well, first we're looking for infinitives, right, Anise? Okay. So what's the format?
Ew. So she hear that? She cracked her neck.
Right.
Okay, guys, quiet down. Anise, do you remember the format of an infinitive? If not, it's right there on the board. In the center, bottom, infinitives. And in parentheses, it tells me it's what?
No, adjective.
No, in parentheses. To plus the verb, okay? So I'm looking for the word to, first of all, if I'm going to try to find an infinitive.
There is two.
Where?
The second one, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, can you not read?
Ambition was 2.
So it's 2 plus a verb, so it's 2C, right? Okay, good. So now I gotta decide if it's a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. So the bird watcher's ambition was to see 100 different species. So is this answering what or who?
Like, you want
It
something
follows the verb, right? So another way you guys can approach this,
Like, I know you live in
Seek my love, you're about out of points for the day.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so let's try reading it with a what or a who. How about that, honey? The bird watcher's ambition was what?
To see 100
Good.
different species.
So if it answers the question, to see answers the question what? It's a noun. Okay? Joseph, take the next one for me.
There's 2
Good. Where is it at?
C and together.
Good. So you immediately saw there's 2 of them. Excellent. So to see and together. So I went to see and together. They're just compounds, so they're going to be serving the same purpose, right? So what do we think they answer? Do they answer what or who?
Yeah.
Well, I can go see a what or a who, right? But if I went, can I went a who or a what? No. So it's not a noun. How about a why, when, how, where? Can they went where? They went why? Really? You don't go where? Where did you go?
Oh. The way you're
The way you're saying it.
the way you're explaining it doesn't make sense.
Because I'm replacing the infinitive with my question. So they went where?
I mean,
Okay? And if you guys do that on these, it might help you determine the part of speech. As long as you don't get confused like I just did to you right now, where you weren't sure what I was doing. Okay? Last one. Huck and Tom swore to keep the secret about Injun Joe.
To keep.
Johnny,
To keep.
good. And is it a noun, adjective, or adverb?
Think of the noun, but I was thinking the adjective.
Well, let's look. Huck and Tom swore what? So it's a noun. If I said Huck and Tom swore what, and you said to keep the secret, it answers that question. Okay? So on your worksheet I'm going to give you right now, you have to find the verbal, and you have to decide if it is a gerund, a participle, or an infinitive. And I've written on the board for you some of the hopefully simplified characteristics of each, okay? Also, this is important. For full credit, if you decide it is a gerund, you need to tell me if it is a subject or an object. If you can tell me it's an object of a preposition or something like that, more specifically, that's great. But at least subject-object. If you decide it is a participle, meaning an adjective, you need to somehow circle, underline again, I don't care, the noun that it's modifying. So the noun it's describing, okay? And if you decide it is an infinitive, you have to do what we just did right now. You have to decide if that infinitive is a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. And remember, the questions for each part of speech are up here. So what are who's for nouns, why, when, how, where for adverbs, and which one, what kind for adjectives. To kind of remind you guys, okay? You guys feel good?
Yes, I do.
Can we do 4 fingers? Do 4 fingers if you understand, you can teach somebody else. Okay? And then 3 is if you understand, yeah, you can do it.
What is it 2?
Odessa, you gotta put down your phone next to you, show me your fingers. 2 is if you kind of understand, 1 is if you don't understand at all.
I can help with.
Can we do it all at once now? 4, 3, 2, or 1? Isabel, Isaiah, you too. Okay.
What does it stand for?
You guys may work together on these. I'm okay with it. I just do not want to see anybody doing it and then everybody else just copying it. And then reminder, the new IXL actually are gerunds, infinitives, and participles. Some of you started them last week, and so hopefully today will help you. And those of you who have not started it, you should be pretty good. 83, 84, and 85.
Oh my God.
The gerund, you
Stop.
You gotta do
What teacher? I want to know how much
You always gotta agree with these. Really?
See,
They can't write
Yes, you guys have an exit question on Google Classroom also. You do. And then tomorrow we will continue with our Romeo and Juliet. Joseph, you have about 15 minutes.
You got 15 minutes. 15 minutes off.
All over. And lower. Okay, so we should tend to this is whoa! Yes, dear. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Melanie, stop.
You should be sitting down and working your best. There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
I use the exercise.
So what do you think it is?
I was just sad, but I'm sorry.
Well, no, so you decided it's a what, then it is a game, right? If running is a what here, it has to be. Okay, so if it's a noun, which one is it, a gerund, participle, or noun?
Not really.
So it's a noun, and what's its format? That's what's gonna decide. Only two here can be nouns, gerunds and infinitives, right? And what's the format of a gerund versus an infinitive? No, right here. The gerund has an ing, and an infinitive has to choose a Okay? Yeah, and then tell me if it's subject to object. Subject. It's the beginning now. Yep. Okay. So first, look for something that ends in an ing or T plus a verb, right? So running. So now you have to decide what part of speech it is. Since it ends in ing, it's obviously not an adjective, right? So it's either a gerund or a participle. So it has to be either a noun or a adjective, right? So is running there a who or a what? Well, yeah, and you can check yourself, replace running with what? What is my father's favorite sport? That makes sense, right? Running. So here running is answering a what? So if it answers a who or a what is it? Uh-huh. And so which ing word can be a noun?
You're like, I felt
Oh,
like.
yeah.
The gerund or participle.
It sounds like you're speaking Jerry. Just go on Jerry. Oh, right, Jerry. Because that's an ing verb that has an I.
Did you just write what it is? Do you have this one? So did we just write the answer?
Okay, so it doesn't end in an A, it's something like that, or an E or an EN. So two plus a verb, so our infinitive is to do, right? Now, it is important to do. So is that a verb or a mood? That's a trivia or not. It's not really a what or who there, right? It does it, well, it kind of does answer a word, but it's not.
Isabel, you didn't go to the sit talk.
Hold on, Tiffany.
Yes.
Think about it, but this is it is important to how do it is?
That's what I'm saying.
So it would be okay, did you call me?
Yeah.
The SB2 plus a verb is the part of it.
No.
So that's not two can either be a preposition or part of an infinitive. If it's followed by a verb,
Alright, here, look. Alright, that's that, there's that.
see, well, no, this is only if you.
Wait, you need to know.
It's all time zone.
No.
I feel like I did.
Because if it's a participle, it's in time.
That's
So it has to be, you have to be able to go into it. Gerunds are necessary.
That's what it's called.
The active.
To show the things that like teenagers, and they
Because it answers the what.
so it's like shotgun. And yeah, I'm looking for the 70s. Whoa.
Okay, so laughing there, that's not answering a what or a who, right? Because the laughing can take a while to right? So if it's not a gerund, it's a person probably, right?
You don't like.
So it's described. And there's no problem if it's not a gerund, and you're saying that it's not a verb, then it's got it. It doesn't have a choice.
Okay, so yeah, you basically like 10 years.
So Number one, running is
We
my
wouldn't know
favorite
each other.
sport.
We really get along.
It's my favorite sport. My father's
I like
favorite
that.
sport.
So it'd be like that.
So does it shine?
So just like.
Well, I don't see an ING or EG. So, is there an infinitive format there?
Darren.
It's because do it doesn't check out.
What is it? No, what is it? It's
That's
just.
one from the.
It ends up being here.
Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't know.
Because it is so it's a predicate number.
If someone floats, we would never.
It renames the. Well, yeah, so there it is. Well, we're not trying to find the subject.
Yeah.
So laughing is the verbal stuff. but
Well, like we're like standing here, and then like I'm thinking you're over there.
It's that laughing.
It's your turn. Okay. Yeah, you know.
Uh-huh.
If I want the day, they tell you. And freezing
Yeah.
teleport. I don't even time travel. You know what? Yes.
Yeah.
You know what think about you?
Right?
No, wait. No, I'll get the clothes on. Okay,
So-
I wouldn't rob it.
I want you to use cuddle as
I
a
would
gender,
wear
and
my.
that participle. And then, so I'm gonna use it as a gender.
I
I'm
wear.
going to use cuddling, the NG as a noun. And so, you see, I just need to say something about cuddling.
For your feet over there.
Sure.
Yeah, they'll probably do it. That'd be so cool.
Like, you should always say, like, I.
Well, you're gonna use cuddling.
What do you think? I would.
She said, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
You can move your arm.
What happened? You okay?
It's very dry.
Yeah. It's like, you not know, you not know, not so yeah. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say something.
Yeah.
See? See, that's not happening. You have all of them.
Well, it's a time travel. Oh.
You're doing fine, you're doing that.
Four.
You're right on it. Okay, there's yours.
Math, like, yeah, yeah. Like, I can see where everyone's walking.
Oh, what was the song?
I was thinking about it, like, oh my
I
god.
hate that they're.
You have to write a sentence, like, put something like,
Did you guys get finished? You guys get finished?
we have two.
You guys feel okay about it? So what's the verbal?
Wait.
Right.
On number 5, would this be right? Oh.
So which one's?
And what is that?
Remember,
Is it
two plus the verb is infinitive, first you will do noun. Is, so which of those two is right?
Oh, it's a this one? So, Mikey runs.
So now we want to like you say as an adverb. So Marion wants to tell. So if it's an adverb, I should be able to kind of replace to go with why, when, how, or where, right? So Marion wants why.
But I don't know if it's part of the he would be
Okay, it's Marlon.
We have to see. Turn the book and
It's definitely
If you guys do not finish, make sure it is finished by the beginning of class tomorrow so that we can go over it before we continue with Romeo and Juliet. Okay?
What's the report? It's more important.
It's not
Use it now, running it.
Oh, you can do the stories.
No, it's not. Look up and listen to this. So gerunds have ing, participles have ings, ed, or ens, right? Infinitives are two plus the verb. So if you don't see the ing or ed ending, look for the word to with the verb. Yeah. Everybody keeps missing that one. I don't know why. It doesn't stand out.
even already know.
Yeah, we have to tell me if the subject or not.
It's a subject. No, yeah, the subject.
It is.
Wait, do you have to do it for the other one?
Okay, ladies, since you guys are gonna finish, take a picture. Cause, oops, sorry, Kate.
Wow,
See
I
right
tried
up
to
there?
grab my hair.
See at your first hand, I wanna know if it's subject or participle. I wanna know what the noun pronoun is. And then for the infinitive, we have to say- she's like, yeah, if not, this is not accidentally pull your hair too, Rainy.
I'll absolutely.
I heard you say eat my hands.
No, I'll accidentally. It sounds good.
Oh,
Look, I said it to my big sister. She hit me. Would this be a part? Dude, ice cream snacks. Would this one be a part of this? And then she yes. Here you go.
Did you finish?
I almost did. I did that one in 7th grade.
Oh, yeah.
Only snacks my mom used to buy for me when I was younger. I learned from her. She made sure not to like.
Guys, don't forget your exit question on Google Classroom.
Okay, I'll do that later.
Just make sure you get it done today, Ray.
I will. Well, yeah, I will. Then on my left.
Show me please for the
Doesn't do it. But I pulled up.
Well, I only did some.
Kill you.
The paper that I gave your daughter. Those are only some.
You gave a paper to my daughter? Where?
She was sitting right there and I.
Yeah.
I hope I.
That's not right.
It's right, Joseph, just do this.
What?
Is it a lot of them that need to be checked for the semester?
I like snacks.
All the ones I missed, except
Every day.
it's like they did like 10, I think.
Okay. You got okay. So just write your name and just put check by Excel.
I do.
That's all.
No, actually.